Welcome to VidZet, your home for careful consideration of our common concerns. I'm Dr. Ted Noel. One of the problems in our supersized society is that news is supersized. We have a 24-hour news cycle with pundits trying to fill every second with some profound bit of wisdom. You just can't absorb all of it. One great example is the Department of Justice Inspector General's report. It's 492 pages and has huge amounts of details. No matter who reports on it, there will only be bits and pieces that you hear. So unless you want to dig in for yourself, it's dry enough that you'll have a great diet while reading it. You'll need to find sources that will let you understand the essentials without getting down into the weeds. Let's start with what we know. In April of 2016, it was becoming clear that Donald Trump was going to be the Republican nominee for president. At about that time, the head of the National Security Agency discovered that 85% of the FBI's queries of NSA data did not minimize U.S. names the way they're supposed to. In short, the FBI was already surveilling all the likely Republican opponents to Hillary Clinton. Admiral Rogers shut that down, so the FBI opened a formal preliminary investigation into Donald Trump. They devised workarounds to keep spying. We are now days away from the second anniversary of the full investigation into the Trump campaign. So far, there is zero evidence that the president colluded with the Russians on anything. Robert Mueller has indicted a number of people on a number of charges, but not one of them has anything to do with the Trump campaign. This tells us that the basic charge of collusion, which, by the way, is not a criminal offense, is completely bogus. And that's the most important finding. Until we take the next step. The Trump full investigation began officially on July 31 of 2016. But the FBI guidelines say they must have, quote, an articulable factual basis for the investigation that reasonably indicates that either an activity constituting a threat to national security is happening or is likely to occur. Close quote. In short, there has to be solid evidence that treasonous activity is in the works. But we know that there wasn't any such evidence. So Hillary's crew had to make some up. Hillary's campaign hired Christopher Steele to create the phony dossier as a way of making it look like Trump was in bed with the Russians. Of course, she hid it by having her law firm, Perkins Coie, do the actual hiring. And, oh, by the way, we now know that Arizona Senator McCain and Utah senatorial candidate Mitt Romney are likely also funders for this. Then the FBI cited reporting by Michael Isikoff in Yahoo News to support the factual basis. Remember, you got to have that, of the dossier. What they didn't say was that Isikoff got his information from Steele, the guy who made it all up. But who should they ask the FISA court for permission to surveil? Things get curiouser and curiouser. Stefan Halper, a British professor and U.S. citizen, suddenly invited George Papadopoulos, a nobody in Trump's campaign, to a confab in England and paid his way. He cozied up to Papadopoulos and over drinks pumped him about the hacked emails and WikiLeaks posts. At the same time, Halper was cozying up to Carter Page, a businessman who had business in Russia and who was peripherally involved in the Trump campaign. Notice that Papadopoulos didn't have any independent information. Halper pushed the information onto him. when Papadopoulos got a bit drunk and talked to Alexander Downer, an ex-Australian ambassador and Clinton supporter, about the possibility that the Russians had hacked Hillary's campaign, Downer fed that back to the FBI to create the cause. Notice how this works. Halper pushes onto Papadopoulos, who spills it as a hypothetical to Downer, who then sends it as he's involved to the FBI. Now you have a fabricated factual basis. Timeline's actually a whole lot more complicated than this, and there are more players, but in short, the Clinton campaign used its cronies to fabricate an excuse to spy on Trump's campaign, and they got a court to sign off on it. Remember now, just your history lesson here, that in the Watergate scandal, some Nixon staffers got caught trying to plant bugs in the Democrat National Committee headquarters. In Hillary's campaign, the FBI managed to listen for over a year. The timeline makes it clear that this surveillance was a criminal conspiracy. Peter Strzok's test message that "we won't let that happen" indicates the direct intent to prevent Donald Trump from being elected. The timeline shows criminal intent as well, but the Inspector General says he did not find documentary evidence of intent. Criminals rarely write down, "I'm going to commit a crime," and every FBI agent knows not to do that. Strzok's test message is the closest you're going to get. As Kimberly Strassel of the Wall Street Journal notes, Horowitz just, quote, never caught anyone writing down, "Let's start this Trump investigation so we can help Hillary win," end quote. And Trey Gowdy showed by his interrogation of James Comey that it ain't hard to prove intent. And now Strzok says he wants to testify. Interesting. Rather than try to follow every rabbit down its hole, let me point you to the very best sources of information for your daily fix. I'll try to keep putting out useful stuff when I can educate. First, there are two news sites, the Drudge Report and Breitbart News. Drudge is actually a news aggregator, and his site is very spare, but there are a lot of links you can follow. Breitbart's front page is set up in a clickbait style. I wish they'd use a format like the Wall Street Journal, which I find much better for just simple news. And by the way, include the Wall Street Journal. Make it 3 sites. Oh, and one other website. Do not miss True Pundit. They aggregate news and they do their own reporting, and I've found everything they report to be well substantiated. Next, on hard news reporting, follow Sarah Carter, John Solomon, and Cheryl Atkinson. All of these have done great work on the FBI scandal. Cheryl Atkinson was at CBS News and quit because they wouldn't publish the work she was doing that was critical of the left and President Obama. Her book, Stonewalled, is a good read. And she has another book, brand new, coming out today, The Smear: How Shady Political Operatives and Fake News Control What You See, What You Think, and How You Vote. For legal analysis, there are 5 excellent sources. Andrew McCarthy is a former federal prosecutor who writes at National Review. Andrew Napolitano is a former judge who comments at Fox News. He also does some independent reporting. Curiously, he was suspended for claiming that the British GCHQ, their equivalent of the NSA, was surveilling Trump for the FBI as a way to get around the law. Turned out he was right, and Fox reinstated him. Another excellent Fox analyst and reporter is Greg Jarrett. Then we have 2 law professors. And this is particularly important because they're both left-leaning politically, but they are excellent on the law. Alan Dershowitz and Jonathan Turley. Don't miss them. I simply cannot keep up with all the bits and report them to you. There's just too much. So you'll have to do some of it for yourselves. Hopefully, I've given you good places to look. Please remember to support VidZ on Patreon, like us on Facebook, and follow @VidZ on Twitter. And the VidZ store is now functional. I'll be adding more to it as we go. Until next time, I'm Dr. Ted Noel. Thanks for watching.